Social media just spread completely false claims about Venezuela's president being captured by the US in under 6 hours. And that reveals something terrifying about how misinformation shapes global politics.
The speed of that spread was incredible. What's even more concerning is how few people stop to question such an extraordinary claim.
You know what's fascinating? Studies show that false news spreads up to 6 times faster than accurate information on social media platforms. And this Venezuela situation is a perfect example of why that matters.
And when it comes to international news, people are even more likely to share without verifying because there's often this knowledge gap about how global relations actually work.
Exactly. And let's be crystal clear here. The idea that the US would suddenly take a sitting president into custody, that would be unprecedented in modern diplomatic history.
Well, that brings up an interesting point about how international law actually works. What do you think drives people to believe such dramatic claims?
So research shows it's actually tied to something called emotional contagion. When content triggers strong emotions like fear or outrage, people are 20% more likely to share it without fact-checking.
And in Venezuela's case, there's already this complex web of sanctions, diplomatic tensions, and real humanitarian concerns that make it easier for misinformation to seem plausible.
You know what's particularly striking? While everyone was sharing these false claims, Venezuela was dealing with actual inflation rates of over 400%, real problems that got completely overshadowed.
That hits at something crucial. How misinformation doesn't just mislead, it actively harms communities by distracting from genuine challenges.
The numbers are staggering. Studies show that in Venezuela, about 90% of families struggle to afford basic food items. That's the reality behind these viral headlines.
And yet, social media algorithms continue to promote the most sensational content, not the most accurate or helpful information.
Here's what really keeps me up at night. Experts estimate that false information reaches about 1,500 people, 6 times faster than accurate information. Just think about the real-world impact of that.
Well, that raises an important question. How do we balance staying informed with being responsible consumers of information?
Let me share something interesting. Fact-checking organizations report that international news stories are 30% more likely to contain misinformation than domestic news, largely because they're harder to verify.
That makes sense when you consider how distance affects our perception. The further removed we are from a situation, the easier it becomes to treat it like entertainment rather than reality.
And you know what's fascinating? Research shows that people are actually more likely to share dramatic false claims about countries they know less about. It's like our skepticism decreases as our geographic distance increases.
That psychological distance creates a kind of emotional buffer, doesn't it? Making it easier to spread information without considering the consequences.
Exactly. And studies have found that false information about international crises can lead to a 40% increase in anxiety levels among affected communities, even when the claims are later debunked.
That's such a crucial point about the real human cost of misinformation. It's not just about wrong facts. It's about the emotional toll on vulnerable populations.
Let's talk solutions, because there's actually some encouraging data here. When people take just 30 seconds to verify information before sharing, the spread of misinformation drops by almost 50%.
Those numbers really show how small individual actions can have significant collective impact.
And here's something powerful. Communities that implement digital literacy programs see a 60% reduction in the spread of false information within their networks.
So it's really about building better habits around how we consume and share information, especially about international events.
The data shows that when people follow even basic verification steps, like checking multiple sources or looking for official statements, they're 70% less likely to share false information.
That's actually really encouraging. It suggests we're not helpless against this flood of misinformation.
Before we wrap up, let me share one final statistic that I find hopeful. When social media users actively correct misinformation in their networks, it can reduce its spread by up to 80%.
Now that's the kind of viral effect we actually want to see.
Until next time, remember that every share, every post, every interaction shapes our global information landscape. Let's make sure we're shaping it responsibly.